And good morning, Minecraft. This is Mr. Kassarian, and welcome to a tutorial on Rotarycraft. Rotarycraft is a pretty cool mod that I've actually been watching for quite a while since it was initially released, and I promised the mod author, Reika, a mod spotlight back on release. The problem was I didn't understand Rotarycraft, and I ended up never doing that spotlight. So, to making up for lost time, here we go. This will not be a true mod spotlight, but rather just a bit of a tutorial to get all of you guys started and sort of understanding how Rotarycraft works. So, without waiting for too long, let's get started. Alright, so the first thing you'll notice is that there are a lot of items in this mod. About 4 pages of stuff in NEI. And it can be a little bit overwhelming. Yeah, just a little. Yeah, just a little. So, here's the basics of Rotarycraft. Rotarycraft is a mechanical mod. It is basically reliant on the idea that everything you design and build is a machine. And not a machine in the way IC2 works, where things are sort of abstracted, you provide power to the machine and the machine works. No. Rotarycraft is on a much finer detail level. You're actually building the motors that turn the mechanical process of the machines. So think of it like you're inside your washing machine. There's a motor. There's gearing and belting that connects your motor to the washer drum, and then it runs. Or, in an even better case, you're building a car. Your wheels are where the power is being consumed, and the car transfers the power down to them. So, let's look at power generation in Rotarycraft. So, probably the first thing you're going to want to craft is this, the Rotarycraft Handbook. Alright, just some paper, some iron, and some redstone. It's not too bad. Now, once you get it, you can open it up, and it actually shows you pretty much everything I'm going to show you in this spotlight. Actually, it shows you a whole heck of a lot more. This is the documentation for the entire mod. You can see there's quite a bit of stuff in here. Everything from the basic terms of how this stuff works, important notes on machines, items, enchanting machines. Some machines can be enchanted. The following, the board can receive silk touch deficiency. That's pretty cool. Alright, arrow gun, woodcutter, force field, nice. Yes, this adds force field. So you can see all the different types of power supply, production machines, processing machines, accessory machines, those are cool. Defensive and offensive machines for all you PvPers out there. Surveying machines, ground penetrating radar, mob radar, cave scanner, CCTV. Ooh, there was a mod that did that, and actually, I think it never got updated. So anyways, without too much ado, let's take a look at power generation first of all. Don't forget your wildcards, folks. Okay, so the first engine you're going to probably end up making is the DC engine. Okay, let's just do DC. There we go, DC electric engine. Alright, it's HSLA, some base panels, and redstone in a shaft unit. Now, you're going to go try and make this in the crafting table. It's not going to work. That's because you need the Rotarycraft work table to make this thing. Notice how this has a full 3x3 grid worth of output? Right. The work table is crafted pretty simply. Bricks, some HSLA, and a crafting table. Now, you guys are probably saying, okay, Cass, how do we get HSLA steel? Well, that's pretty simple. HSLA, if I do this, I don't know if this has the NEI integration built in yet. Oh, not what I wanted. Yes, you need a blast furnace. This is not a Railcraft blast furnace, by the way. And I don't believe you can use Railcraft steel to make this stuff. You have to make a Rotarycraft blast furnace, which thankfully is cheap. It's some stone bricks around some redstone. So let's get ourselves a blast furnace, alright? Okay, now what do I need to do? Well, if you're like me when you first open this thing up, you're going to go, okay, well, I'm going to need coal somewhere, right? So let's get some coal. And that goes in this middle slot. You're also going to need some sand. And you're going to need some gunpowder. You guys are going, oh my gosh, this is expensive steel, man. Well, it kind of is. And then, of course, you're going to need some iron. And just fill this up in here. Okay. Why isn't it running? Well, notice how it says 40 degrees C? You have to heat this thing up. And the easiest way to heat it up, honestly, is to put some lava under it. That's right, you actually heat this thing up externally. It doesn't have any internal power consumption. So let's just get a couple lava source blocks going on here. Put that down there. And let's get some cobblestone just to make this a little faster. Actually, I think this makes this faster. Now let's just put some more behind it. And now if we look at it, we should note that this thing is starting to heat up. And I believe it reaches 560. So I'll be right back once it gets hot enough to actually function. Alright guys, so every type of fluid source has a maximum heat it will heat it to. Cobble will heat you up to 640 degrees C. Not too bad. Alright, so we're now up to 640, we needed 600. Now we just put our iron in. And it's going to start processing. Now there's kind of a cool thing with this. One, it's more efficient the more iron you put in. The more these slots you fill up, the more efficient it is. And it does it in batches. Boom, first batch. It used up 1 coal for this entire unit. But notice it didn't use any sand or gunpowder. Nice. Now I believe the sand can get eventually used up. Gunpowder, I don't think the gunpowder actually gets used up. So basically, you also have this helpful info tab that puts you in here. The machine will operate with more slots full. The coal is not fuel and external heat source is required, as I said. It also tells you where to put stuff. Okay. Coal, charcoal, this is kind of the information, and then XP per steel ingot. So if I take the steel out, I get some XP for it. Nice. I now have HSLA. Now, this is definitely, you want to run this whole thing in batches. Alright. It's pretty quick, pretty efficient. You want to run it in batches, it's pretty good. Alright. So, now that we know how to make HSLA, let's turn ourselves to the actual power system of Rotarycraft. This is your first engine you're probably going to make. The DC engine. All it requires is a redstone signal. Kind of think of it like the redstone engine or the wooden engine from Buildcraft. Alright? Free power. Not a lot of power, but free power. Power is measured in Rotarycraft by kilowatts. Engine outputting 1.024 kilowatts at 256 radians per second. Now, that's not all of the detail that we have here, alright? If you look at the machines, let me look up the grinder for the sake of it. Okay. Grinder. Hold shift for power data. Minimum power, 4.096 kilowatts. Minimum torque, 128 Newton meters. Okay. Newton meters is a measure of torque. Radians per second is a measure of speed. Alright. Radians per second converts to... You guys give me a split second here. Radians per second, 1 radian per second is equal to 9.549 rotations per minute. Okay, so in this case, we are producing power at 256 radians per second. So using Google's helpful conversion feature. No, that's not the way I want to go, guys. Alright, no need to worry about that. I will put that video information in the video description. Basically, you can convert back and forth. It's a different measurement. It's a physics measurement, basically. So, think of this kind of like your car engine, right? You have torque, you have the total amount of power, and you have the radians per second, okay? So basically, your total output's being measured in kilowatts, whereas your speed's being measured in radians per second. And every machine has an amount of torque that it generates, okay? Now, this system I have set up here is how you transmit power. These are shafts. These are bedrock shafts, the best, the most efficient. I believe they're actually lossless, and they're bloody expensive. I'll be using them to show you guys, but just remember, you have other machines and other types of shafts and interjunctions that all have different properties. I believe if you look up shaft in NEI, you have your wooded shaft, your stone shaft, your steel shaft, your diamond shaft, your bedrock, and your bedrock shaft. Okay, bedrock's the best, wooden's the worst. So you have a couple things to keep in mind with this. If I pull up in Rotarycraft and I look at power transfer, I look at the shaft. Basic transmission device carries the power with no changes in torque or speed. Pay attention to the direction. Different materials, different strengths, and different limits on torques and speed. All right. Max speed, infinity. Max torque, infinity. This thing can only move at 3.578 kilorads, and its max torque is 278 Newton meters, Nm. Now, let's take a look at the torque that these engines are generating. All right. Power supply, flip over. The torque we're generating is 4 Nm per 4 Newton meters. So we could actually run this entire thing on wooden shafts. But you have to be careful here, because like this system is actually trying to combine the inputs. This is a bevel gear, all right? The bevel gear basically allows you to switch the direction around. So the way you move these things is with this screwdriver, iron, stick, and a piece of wood. Pretty basic. Green is your input, red is your output. If I rotate this, notice it's not spinning. That's because my output is set to the engine, my input is set to the bevel gear. Click it again, it flips back into place, and it works. Now, this is kind of... the bevel gears work a little bit differently. If I right-click, it shows me this colored box and then the input-outputs. But it doesn't change the rotation of it, and this is something I've heard from a lot of new players that confuses the daylights out of them. What you have to do is, you look at this, you see what your inputs and outputs are, and I say, I want the input from the top. Well, the top's blue, so I click Input Top Blue. Ooh, shiny. Alright, well, now I need to set it back, the input, I need to set it back to orange. So, input side, orange, and it's working. Alright, this is a shaft junction. This takes power and merges it. You notice it has 2 green sides and a red output side? Nice. There we go, it's flipped back around properly. But notice how this thing isn't spinning. Power is being received from, so it's tracing itself back through the line to minus 105, 68, 260. Where did it say it was receiving power from again? Minus 105. Yeah. 68, 268. Yeah, so it's receiving power from right over here. Well, it's actually not receiving power. If you right-click on it, it's connected to that, but it's actually not receiving any power from it. Why not? This system right here is a clutch. The clutch basically works like the clutch in your car. It allows you to turn power on and off again. Shaft unit, redstone, or just steel shaft and some redstone. Not too expensive. So notice that at this point, this thing is receiving 1.024 kilowatts at 256 radians per second. So it's only receiving the torque from this motor. If I engage the clutch, or disengage the clutch is the proper terminology you would say, you can see I've just doubled my kilowatts, but my speed has stayed the same. That's because I now have more torque available, but I don't necessarily have any more speed. It makes sense, right? You can't increase speed by merging engines, speed will stay constant. In fact, if the speed was different, we'd have something of an issue, and you'd see some sparks. You cannot merge different speeds of engine. You can only merge the same speed. So the input here and the input here both have to be 256, 256. This little device I'm holding is the angular transducer, requires an ender pearl and some wood. And you just right-click and it'll show you some relevant information about the machines. Now, there we go. All right. So it's an interesting method of power. Now, let's say you have a machine, you have a motor that runs at really high speed. Let's say a wind turbine from Rotarycraft, which is pretty easy to craft. It's some propeller blades and a hub, HSLA base panel. You're going to burn through a lot of HSLA. Let me warn you that in advance. That's a shaft bearing HSLA steel gear. Alright, so let's get us one of these. Excuse me. Let's get us some... I already have some cobble. And let's put this thing up nice and high, shall we? Beautiful. And we'll get ourselves a bevel gear. Let me just flip into creative here so I can set this thing up properly. Alright, and we want the output to be on the cyan side. Okay. And then we'll just connect our shafts down like so. And we just get our screwdriver. And I'm just showing you guys this, just so you have an understanding of how this thing works. We get these all nice and flipped around. And as you guys can see, once you get the hang of this system, it's not too bad. And we want it on the blue side, input. And we want it outputting over here. Oops, that's not it. Old one. Ah, blue, not cyan. And we're now rotating. And let's just put down one more shaft. And let's see what we're doing here. Oops, that's not the tool I wanted to use. I wanted to use the angular transducer. So we're producing at 247 radians per second at 988 watts. Okay, that's not too bad. 247 RS. We're at 256 over here. Now, the higher up this thing is, the better it's going to perform, actually. So you want to be a little careful. Also, you want it to be as free of obstructions as possible. Let's see if that did anything. Nope, we're still at 247 radians per second. Alright, that's not too bad. So it's spinning, it's doing its job, and we're not doing too bad with this. Okay. What other power gen do we have in this mod? Well, let's take a look at power supply. The wind turbine, low density of air, doesn't generate much torque, but it's designed at rather rapid speed of 1024 radians per second. Only maximizes when it's up high and out in the open. Objects and blocks can obstruct the blades of this engine. So you might want to put it a little bit higher. Let me come back once I've done that. Alright, so I hope you guys have your calculators out here. So, to put it basically, and this is only because I actually have Wikipedia sitting up next to me. So, power in watts is equal to the radians per second times your torque in Newton meters. So therefore, conversely, your torque is equal to your torque T is equal to, if I look back at my diagram over here, torque is therefore equal to P over W. So torque is therefore equal to your watts divided by your radians per second. Okay? So in this machine, for example, I have 2.80 kilowatts. So let me get my calculator out. 2.8. What was that reading again? 2.180. 2.180 2,180 watts. And then we're going to divide it by our radians per second at 545. Gives us 4, which is what this machine over here said it would generate, 4 Newton meters. Why is that important when I could just look it up? Well, because we're not done yet. So let's say you have a machine that different machines in this mod require different power settings. Now your speed, in terms of your radians per second, determines how fast the machine is going to operate, okay? But you need to hit a certain power level to operate it. So let's look at production machines. That's a fermenter. Does the fermenter require power? 32 radians per second. 1024 watts. Okay. Let's see if this will actually show it off. So let's get ourselves a fermenter. Okay, shift for power data. I need 1.024 kilowatts. Well, this thing's providing plenty of power then. All right. So let's just throw the fermenter on here. Power, speed, torque, all set. Nice and pretty. I should get myself a pickaxe now, shouldn't I? Or a drill. I'll get myself an IC2 drill. Let's just get ourselves the diamond drill and... Oh, we don't have gravity suit in this pack. Okay, that's fine. Jetpacks. I apologize for this. Energy pack. Here we go. Break this thing. It drops nothing. Just to let you guys know. Okay, so let's find another machine. One that'll demonstrate this a little bit better. Those are production machines. Fractionalizer, bedrock breaker, boring machine. What do I want here? Let's do the grinder. I think the grinder will show this off pretty well. Okay, so if I connect the grinder here, power, speed, ooh, not enough torque. 4Nm is nowhere near enough torque, and not enough power either. Well, there's an issue. There's an issue, guys. We're not generating enough power for this machine. Now, I'm just going to demonstrate it with this machine because it's going to be easier that way. Can I actually break you without you not falling into my... Okay, you apparently really don't like to get broken by IC2 tools. Alright, that's fine. Let's get ourselves a grinder, and I'll just get a diamond pick. Oh god, I forgot how many picks there are on this mod. There we go, diamond pickaxe. Okay. So now... There we go. Let's replace that grinder, that shaft unit, with another item called a gearbox. And... we're going to use a bedrock. Now, the cool, interesting thing with gearboxes is they can take damage, all of them except for the bedrock version. Oh, because we're in... There we go. Excuse me. All of them except for the bedrock variant, okay? The bedrock variant can take no damage, and it doesn't need any lubricant. So all of these require lubricant. This one doesn't. So this is a 2-to-1, okay? So let's drop this thing down. Input, output. It is currently converting to torque, all right? So now if I put a shaft on the front of this thing, let's look at it in two different places. Let's look at it back here. Okay, 545 radians per second, 272 kilowatts or 2 point that. So we're losing a few kilowatts in the transition there. But where did the rest of the power go? Well, remember how I said, so let's say 2176, right? Because that's our kilowatt, that's our wattage is 2176 in kilowatts. And of course that goes away. At 272 radians per second. We have 8. That thing generates 4. The 2-to-1 has halved the torque, but it's halved the speed and doubled the torque. Let's say you want to go backwards. How do you do that? Just shift right click. Notice how it's spinning faster? Now it's in speed mode. So if I do this, whoa, we're still at 2180. But this time, we're at 1,090 radians per second. And now we only have 2 Newton meters of torque available. So this is how you can convert power. Not too bad, right? I didn't think so at all. All right. So now that we've demonstrated a couple quick things, let's look at some of the other methods of power generation that this mod provides. All right, so this is the Hydrokinetic Generator, aka it's a water wheel. Now, this thing is kind of cool. If I look at this, I'm generating 446 watts at 1 radian per second. That's 446 Newton meters of power. Whereas this machine was generating 2, but it has a much higher speed. So the water wheel generates a fair amount of power, but it generates it at a very high torque and very low speed, okay? Let me demonstrate, but it's also dependent on how far the water's falling. So at this height, which is a fall of, I think it counts it from here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks. We're generating 446 watts. It's not too shabby. Let's pick this up. So it was 446 watts at 1 RS. Okay, 1 rad per second. Now let's do not what I wanted. I want to do that. Doesn't really matter in the long run, but... And we'll let the water fall. We'll let the water fall. That's quite a high fall. I think that's almost 64 blocks. That's going to shut down in a second. Whoa, it's picked up some speed there. We're generating 257.136 kilowatts at 22 rads per second. So if I say 257.136 let's convert that over. So that's 257.136. Okay, Windows calculator. At 20 divided by 22 gives us a whopping, oh god, 11 kilonewton meters of power. 11.688 kilonewtons. That's 11,688 newtons of power. Newton meters of power. That's a lot of power. Now it's at a very low speed. So let's get that. Remember that grinder I built? Well, I broke because I was in adventure mode. Let's get that grinder right here. Okay. And let's just slap him right on the end of this thing. And let's see how he's doing. Power, speed, and torque. He doesn't need much speed, he just needs power. Now, what are we going to use this grinder for? Well, notice how it says lubricant 907 millibuckets, and it's dropping rapidly. When this thing runs out of lubricant, and trust me, it'll stop running. Well, how do we make lubricant? That's pretty darn easy. All we need are some canola. Canola seeds, Rotarycraft. Canola is not a plant, but this is Minecraft. We don't care. We build nuclear reactors in a 3-meter space. All you have to do is take your canola seeds, which you can also plant to grow them, into the grinder, and they will be ground up and turned into lubricant. Now, this thing's slow, man. It's so slow. I don't want to wait for this thing to run. Okay, you don't like to be broken, apparently. Well, let's get ourselves one of those gearboxes. And let's go with a steel 2-to-1. So I can demonstrate the damage mechanic to you guys. Whoa, gosh. Okay, there's way too much power coming through there. Remember how I said each of these has a maximum? Remember what I said the torque was? Let's look up power transfer again. Gearbox. They come in 4 ratios. Reduction gears. Okay, that's fine. Where do we get the power from? Alright, so let's get a diamond 4-to-1. There we go. We're working now. Except we want it to go the other way around and upgrade it. Okay, so now all the experiments have shown you we should be dividing our speed by, dividing our torque by 4. So let's divide our torque by 4. We only have about almost 3 kilonewton meters of torque. But we should have quadrupled our speed. Oh yeah, notice how you see damage effects happening there. It's taking damage because it doesn't have lubricant. Well, now that we have a grinder, we should be able to solve that. Yeah, that's the damage sound. Now the grinder's working a little bit faster. Let's get some, let's let this run. And I'll show you what happens when you damage it. Remember, anything except for the bedrock variant needs lubricant. Now you can just put your buckets in there to collect your lubricant. But in the sake of this, let's get some pipes. Oh, they don't call them pipes in this mod, do they? Oh, interesting. It pauses your game while you're in here. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Tool items. Let's see. Reika, where did you put it? Processing machines. That's a friction blower. That's actually pretty cool. You need to get yourself some lubricant hose. There you go. There you go. We now have lubricant flowing. And we should now have lubricant inside the gearbox. And if you notice, the damn thing has stopped taking damage. We'll run this thing around. And there we go. When we get enough lubricant in the system, it should start pumping out into that lubricant pipe. Not too shabby. Now, I believe that you can also store lubricant in drums. Well, while we're over there, let me show you something. You can also store lubricant in reservoirs, okay? No, I didn't want that. There we go. Reservoir, courtesy of Rotarycraft. Let's put a reservoir right there. So it should feed this thing with fluid first. If I can stop clicking on it with the device that turns it. And it's going to keep cooking down those canola seeds. Now the thing about the reservoir is, if I actually get around to breaking it with my diamond drill. Yeah, be careful with breaking things in this mod. If I put in a reservoir of lubricant, like that, and I believe I have to put the pipes in from the bottom on this one. If I can get around this whole thing. There we go. It's going to feed the lubricant out, and it's going to actually feed it into this machine here. Nice. And quickly drain out whatever lubricant we have in the system. Notice it's slowing down as that thing's filling up. That thing is getting lubricant, and this thing is producing lubricant if I can stop doing that. Derping. Notice these things don't take any damage. However, However, that thing does damage you. Just remember that, guys. Okay, so that's some of the basics of Rotarycraft. We're over time for this, so I'm going to have to come back in another episode and show you guys a little bit... Oh, yeah, the grinder hurts, too. And show you guys a little bit more of what makes Rotarycraft a really cool but fairly difficult mod to learn. So this has been Mr. Kasarian. I hope this has educated you guys. I hope it's explained a little bit to you. Come back next time. Let's see some more power generation and some more processing machines. Hey, guys. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy mining.